Our next speaker hails from Senegal, grew up in France, and launched her entrepreneurial career in the US. As my preamble for this talk, who went to the Magic Internet Money Film Festival last night? Any people? Nice, there's a few of us. Okay, great. So I had a film there about Senegal and about how this coin is being used to fight the sort of post-colonial relic currency that is the CFA in West Africa. And of course, one of the themes across the whole of Africa is these hyperinflating currencies, government overreach, and the inability for people to, take sovereignty, and the role that the digital gold can play in combating these horrible, horrible things. Am I still on the screen? Cool. Now, Magatte is an internationally renowned speaker. I'm going to list off some of the places she's spoken at: the World Economic Forum, United Nations, the Aspen Institute, Clinton Global Initiative, some small universities, including Harvard, Oxford, Stanford, Yale, MIT, the TED Mainstage, and very soon, adopting BTC Cape Town 2024. She's come all this way just for this conference. So please, put your hands together and welcome onto the stage Magatte Wade for her talk about the heart of a cheetah. Are you microphone or lectern? Microphone.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good morning. It's still morning, right? All right. So, guys, thank you so much for being here. And KG, Herman, really exciting to be here and excited to be here. Thank you for all the great work that you guys do. Very much. So, guys, after Jimmy talked, I was like, at some point I was like, people are going to be depressed by what they're hearing. And so I'm here to bring you hope and inspiration. But as with anything with me, you'll know, it's not just based on, oh, gee, wouldn't it be just nice? No, there's a plan out there. So anyway, let me start this by talking about, I'm just going to share with you my story. So I was born in Senegal, like I said, and I'm one of those people whose whole life, who here has come to where they are today because of something that they promised themselves when they were 7 years old? That's me. I'm here today. Everything I'm doing is because of what happened to me when I was 7. So bottom line is I was born in Senegal, the west coast of Africa. And my family, around age 2, did what so many African families before them, did. My family did something that many African families, did before them and continue doing to this day. They left me behind in search for a better life. They left me with my grandma, and they went to Europe to look for a better job so they can, take care of the family back home. That left a really deep imprint on me. And later, when I was around age 7, my parents decided that, oh, wow, their immigration journey has worked. So then they called for me to be reunited with them back in Europe, where they were at that point. So I left, and I arrived in Germany when I was 7. In the middle of a winter, and I was just like, what the hell is this place? But not in a bad way. It was just like, I think the biggest question that popped into my head was, how come they have this and we don't? And really, all little girl Magatte was talking about was, how come back home, when it's time to take my shower, it's a 45-minute to an hour affair, and here mom says, jump in the shower, and it's a few seconds. What am I talking about here? Because back home, grandma has to get a coal stove going, fan it forever, put a pot of water on it, wait for it to boil, and then dump it into a bigger bucket, mix it with some cold water, and then my cousin or somebody like that would drag it to the shower area, and there, at last, some 45 minutes to an hour later, I can take my shower. Now, you can imagine that then here in Germany, mom is like, get in the shower, and I jump in, and within a few seconds, the water is coming down at the temperature I needed. I was like, whoa, what type of voodoo trick is this? That was literally what happened. And so that question really never left me. I wanted to know, how come they had this? How come they had the paved roads, and we didn't? I needed to know. And along the journey, I had everyone tell me reasons as to why supposedly that was the case. And you have to know, the question became, how come some countries like mine are poor, while others, US, Germany, UK, Australia, whatever, are rich? Why? And of course, I would hear all of these answers from various people. Some would say, oh, darling, it's the IQ theory. To this day, in some very serious conferences, I see people discussing the IQ theory as a reason why, yes, us Africans are still, we still have a poorest region in the world. And to this day, I am on Twitter arguing with people who are making that, argument. And you have people in Silicon Valley that are being influenced, very, very, names, but if I put their names in here, you would know who they are. But they are influenced by folks who think that way, who have put the IQ theory at the heart of their argumentary. So this is very serious stuff, you guys. And so some people saying the IQ theory, others, oh, you guys, malnutrition. Oh, it's because you don't have shoes, you poor darling. So with Tom's shoes, buy one pair, give one, everything is going to be just better. I've heard all this nonsense, but none of it made sense. Why I call it nonsense. Why? Because if that was true, how come my parents, those very same people, the minute they leave my country and they go to another one, how come all of a sudden self-actualization? What's going on here? Because in this equation, the only thing that I'm seeing that's the only variable here has been the place they happen to be in or not. Now I'm starting to think, it has to do with this place. It has to do with it. Now I needed to know, what's the difference between France, between the US, for example, and Senegal, let's say. And at first, I thought to myself, of course, they're rich. That's why everything is like that, and we're poor. Just come to understand. So what happened in between? So we moved to Germany. After a couple years in Germany, the family moved to France. After France, business school in France, I decided that France was going to be too small for my ambitions, and I'm like, I need to get the hell out of here. I need to get the hell out of here. English is only my fourth language. I'll mix up some words. Put up with me even when that happens. I'm sure you know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, so after business school in France, I moved to the United States, and eventually I land in Silicon Valley as a headhunter in the finance world. Was doing extremely well for myself, working for companies like Google when most people didn't even know how to pronounce it, or Netflix before it became a house name brand. They had a tiny office in South San Jose in the middle of nowhere, like San Jose, very like south, and I got lost going there multiple times, but I was so privileged to be in the heart of Silicon Valley, where innovation was happening all around me all the time. Amazing, amazing stuff going on. And I think it's really where I got the bug of entrepreneurship, and also really having a deep, visceral understanding of what entrepreneurship is all about and the ecosystem of the entrepreneur. So one thing leading to another. So again, doing very well for myself, but one day I had an existential crisis. I was driving down Big Sur, and all of a sudden, my body broke down. What happened was, here I was, 1 minute celebrating all my accomplishments and having so much gratitude for all the people who have showed up to help me on that journey. But all of a sudden, my mood turned dark. Why? Because as it would often happen to me in moments of joy like that, the next moment was a moment of deep, deep sadness. Why? Because I'm sure many people in this room can relate to what I'm going to say. I grew up with stories of Senegalese people like me, trying to do what my parent did, migrate to some other country for a better life. Unfortunately, unlike my parents, they were not able to do it under very safe circumstances. And many people would pack themselves into little fishermen's boats, trying to make it to Europe. And of course, most of the time, the boat tips over somewhere on the ocean. And so right now, you have thousands and thousands and thousands of dead Senegalese laying at the bottom of the ocean, serving as fish food. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, is this truly the best that we can do? And when the sea route is deemed too dangerous, people go land route. And land route, you get stuck in Libya for the most part. And there, do you know what happens to us? We get sold as slaves. It took for CNN to do something, to do an article about it for the world to finally believe what we knew. Because, we're on some WhatsApp groups where we're basically sending money to try and buy the freedom back of some of our brothers and sisters who are caught there, okay? And then when that's decided to be too dangerous, people, take planes, and then somewhere above England, a body drops because somebody thought it would be a good idea to hide in the landing gear. So yeah, that day, that's exactly the stories that came to me. And that day, I could no longer reconcile the life of abundance that I was afforded with the life of scarcity that I had left behind. And you know what they say? They say that The mind has an amazing ability to make sense of pretty much anything, including of the worst. That's why oftentimes you'll see us humans do some horrible, horrible things and still find a way to justify it. But the body doesn't have that ability. And that day, my body said, enough. Enough to you brains, finding always ways to push this under the rug. We are calling it quit. Literally, I had like a body breakdown, as well as a mental breakdown. My body started doing this shaking, and I almost lost control of my car. And I stopped the car the minute I could. And that day, let me tell you, my life changed, because it's the moment when I said, I can no longer live like this. From here on, the only way I'm gonna have peace is I have to confront this. So I said, God, please, please put me to use. From here on, I vow that every breath that I take, I will put it at the service of my people, of my continent. I don't know what to do, but you show me the way, and I'm gonna show up every day. And from then on, everything changed. It totally changed. So I went back home, and multiple things happened, but just to go quickly because I see the time going by, and by the way, you can read all of this in my book, The Heart of a Cheetah. But anyway, one thing leading to another, I became an entrepreneur, primarily in an effort to criticize by creating. My father always said, never come to me with your problems. You better have to have an alternative. It doesn't have to be the right solution, but I just want to know that you thought of solutions. Because when you're in solutions mode, something very different happens, in your mind. In any case, I became an entrepreneur. I started my first company, which was a beverage company. And what you have to understand is this little company that I started in my kitchen, and before you knew it, we had raised more than $32.5 million. This is in the US. I had the who's who of the beverage world on my board, Roger Enrico, ex-chairman of Pepsi, all of those people. And the reason why I bring it up is just to tell you again why I had decided to go to the US, and also at that moment what was going on. So starting that business, we had a sister company in the US, a sister company in Senegal, because we were sourcing products in Senegal. By the way, the reason why I started that company is because I was sick and tired of the hibiscus that I grew up with disappearing, because if you made it, everybody thinks, oh, the cool thing is to drink Pepsi and Coca-Cola. Okay, great, fine, whatever. I'm not okay with that. And the women who used to grow the hibiscus losing their livelihood, I'm not okay with that. So I'm going to criticize by creating and start this company and put the hibiscus back on the map and put 9,000 women back to work, because that's exactly what we did. So, in any case, as I was doing that, thank you. So as I was doing that, that's when I started to notice something. So this was in 2003, okay? And here in the US, it was taking 15 minutes, 20 minutes, depending on how fast you type, to register your LLC. Over here in Senegal, back then, it took us almost 2 years. Over here in the US, you had employment at will. So fire, hire freely at will. Over here in Senegal, before I can hire you, some government agent who doesn't understand business, have never worked a day in a company in his life, has to tell me if I can work, if you and I can get into a contract with each other. Are you kidding me? And also decides the price I'm going to pay you, the salary. Same thing if I'm going to fire you. Same thing, government has to give me approval. So all of this nonsense, the permits, I won't even go there, all of that crap, it's just a joke. And back then I was thinking to myself, oh, I guess it's just because we're poor, everything is messed up. And here it's because we're rich. That's why it works. So it's so much easier to start and run a business. Just come to think, wait a second. There was my answer to my little question. Africa is the poorest region in the world, because it happens to be the most overregulated region in the world. What it means in reality is what I just explained to you. It is like swimming through molasses for entrepreneurs to do anything. So poverty is solved by prosperity, not poverty alleviation, because my goal is not just to be a little bit less poor, thank you very much. So poverty is solved by prosperity, prosperity built by entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs need what? An enabling business environment. Yet African nations, for most of them, basically have among the worst business environments in the world. And no one talks of this. No one. I can line up 100 Africans over here, 100 non-Africans over there, ask them why we're poor. Africans and the allies will say, colonialism, racism, neocolonialism, blah, blah, blah. Over here, I hear the other side, IQ, you guys are lazy, you guys are always fighting, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, no one tells me, you have the worst business environments in the world, your creators cannot create, and your wealth creators cannot create. So of course you're poor. Amazing, isn't it? Right? So, we again take matters into our own hands, because guess what? There's no time to waste. So, what are we going to do about this? So, as soon as I understood that, the first few years, the few next years after that, still being an entrepreneur, I'm building my third company, you know, because I'm schizophrenic that way. In any case, what we do here is worked then on reforms. Business reforms to try and take down as many business obstacles that we could find in many African nations, primarily through financing free market think tanks in Africa, right? So each think tank thinks for themselves about the issues that they want to solve on this, and then they come to us to help them with financing and all of that, and us is the Atlas Network, the largest organization of free market think tanks in the world. So that was my first foray into solving that business environment problem. Then I'm thinking to myself, this is not going fast enough, because we have hundreds of millions of young people on this continent, the youngest in the world, every single year coming to the market needing work. And if nothing is done, ticking bomb on our hands, and no one will make it from that tsunami. So what have we done here? This is why at some point I started, I had people around me who had been working on these things called, you may know them as charter cities. Anybody heard about them? Okay, great, I see one person. Well, that's why I come to these things, because I think it's important we talk about this stuff. So the charter cities, what are they exactly? I call them startup cities. These are next generation special economic zones with their own law, their own governance, and custom regulatory framework. So what you're saying is basically saying, you come to this country and you say, you're so poor because you have a worst business environment in the world. But piecemeal piecemeal legislation just takes forever. You have a vested and entrenched interest that Jimmy was talking about. They're there. They're not going to watch you without a fight. They're not going to go down without a fight. And also the people. But for the most part, although they could be benefiting from a better business environment, you coming and changing all the laws all at once at a nation level, it's just going to be too much, and people don't like change, they resist it, so they'll resist you, even if the salute is in it, but they just don't know it yet. So what you propose to do is instead look at city size, zones. And there, what you do is you create something, at least at the commercial, when it comes to business and business law, that has absolutely almost nothing to do with the rest of the country, because why? We decided already, but the rest of the country is basically zoned for poverty. It is regulated for poverty, so it has to change. So here, what you do, think about your piece of land as your computer, and the set of laws that's going to rule it as your operating software. And when it comes to that, we know that most poor nations are running on 80s software in a global world where everybody's looking for the most cutting-edge software. And then you can understand why we're still behind. Because then in Africa, we're saying, oh, come on, we have all of these SEs, all of these special economic zones on the continent. Yeah, but you know what? They're running on 80s software. Thank you very much. Nobody wants this, even if you give it to them for free. So in any case, here, that's what you do. And so the best startup city that I can tell you about is called Prospera on the island of Roatan in Honduras. That's what they've done. A zone with semi-autonomous status. Remember when Jimmy was talking about, he said there was a Bitcoin country where actually, I'm trying to go so fast, but actually Prospera is a Bitcoin city. What it is, because you guys, we're going to have to think about this. We're all excited, we say Bitcoin fixes this. I'm here to tell you Bitcoin does not fix everything. It's a very key, important tool. But Bitcoin also is going to have its own problems, because if tomorrow a big country like the US decides it's all outlawed, where do the rest of us go? So what these cities do as well is that because we can self-regulate, we can decide that Bitcoin is the legal tender. So we have the most amazing team that the Prospera team is. We have the ex-CEO as well as the ex-Chief Strategy Officer of the Dubai International Financial Center working with us. We have the two main architects of the Estonia e-government, which is one of the best in the world. The architect that we work with is Zaha Hadid, the best in the world. Some of our executives, we also have some of the executives of a new Songdo city, the most new city the most successful new city development of the 21st century. So you see, and it's like that about everything. So we have people who know how to execute on these things, and of course they showed it. They did it very well with Honduras. It's happening right there, and as the co-founder of Prosper Africa, I'm now bringing all of this to the continent. For the past year or so, I was on stealth mode, under the radar, for more than a year, but we just announced all of this year, actually this week, my joining them. And I've been speaking to 4 nations, going on 6, and I do believe that within the next few months, we'll be able to make our first announcement of which country in Africa we're going to be doing this with very soon. So my point is, you see, we don't sit around and wait. I'm not waiting for nobody. That's what we, the Cheetahs, are. Cheetahs are the fast runners of Africa. And so we're not going to wait for government. Actually, the race we're on, it's a race between government and freedom. We have to go as fast as we can, and we will take you, us Bitcoiners, with it. Because what you're going to need is some of these jurisdictions to be existing around the world, so that when these other countries come out and say, this is not right, this is not, we don't allow you to do it over here, well, you have all of these networks of cities around the world that are self-regulating and saying, yeah, well, too bad, because here it's allowed. Now what are you going to do, right? So this, my friends, is actually what's been going on. I really encourage as many of you to educate yourself about this, because to me, this is the best technology that there is right now. I call these cities actually a new technology. To me, this is the most important technology of the 21st century. And so join in with us, because it's going places. So I'm going to be around. You guys can come talk to me. By the way, all the things I explained on stage today that I was racing a mile an hour to say to you, please read the book, The Heart of a Cheetah, because we explain how Africa got to where it is today. And by the way, the people I point to is crazy Uncle Marx. Crazy Uncle Marx is the reason why today Africa is the poorest region in the world, because when most of African nations were getting their independences, most of the African liberators had already sadly drunken the crazy Marxist socialist ideologies of their time. And we never recovered from that, and most importantly, we never re-evaluated that part of our history. And we're still running with the madness that was left behind. So we have a reckoning to do. But more importantly, there is a solution ahead. We are working on it. Please reach out. There are exciting stuff going on. I mean, Jimmy was talking about, oh, we kind of, staled in terms of progress. Yeah, because the environment was wrong. But I believe that everything that, he's complaining about, the advancement he hasn't seen, it's going to happen in Africa. Actually, the next best international financial center in the world is about to happen somewhere in Africa. If you want to know where it is, talk to me. But anyway, I will leave you with this. There is a super, super, super bright future for Africa. So bright that it's blinding me, literally. So jump on board, guys. And you guys already are innovators. So I think you can understand it all. Thank you so much. And we will be talking next time.
Wow, that was phenomenal. Thank you so much, Magatte. Merci beaucoup. Hein? That was incredible. I was trying to take notes during that talk, particularly during the climax, but I was actually a little bit vibrating and just so excited about it all. But to briefly sum up, poverty is solved by prosperity. We need an enabling business environment to enable wealth creation on the continent. Satoshi money does not fix everything. However, we can expect a Prosperer-style nation in Africa sometime this year, which I'm really looking forward to. And one quick thing about the Prosperer region of Honduras, not only is Bitcoin de facto legal tender there, but they also, was it the doctor? No, okay, come on down. So not only is Satoshi money de facto legal tender in Honduras, they also made it, congratulations, they also made it the unit of account, which is one step closer to a sound money standard.